Hello and welcome to another episode of Talks with Kalpana. I'm your host Kalpana Singhal, and today we have the pleasure of spotlighting a remarkable leader in the field of cybersecurity. Joining us is David Gee, the advisor at Bain Company and ex-global head technology, cyber and data risk at Macquarie Group. Welcome, David.
Good afternoon.
So, hope you're doing well today.
Thank you. It's been a busy day, but I'm happy to be here to share some thoughts.
Our pleasure. So let me start with first knowing about your career and what key lessons have you learned about the intersection of technology, risk management, and leadership that are vital for today's digital leaders.
Good. That's a really big question. Look, I think I've had a fun career. I've sort of spanned multiple countries. I've worked in Australia, of course, being Australian. I've worked in Asia Pac, in China, into Hong Kong, through sort of 18, 20 countries in Asia. Lived in Hong Kong, lived in Shanghai, lived in Japan twice, lived in the US. I've had some fun. So and I've just spanned many industries. I've sort of started in insurance, went into media, moved into building materials, doing concrete and plasterboard, moved into consulting with EY. I did consulting with EY, KPMG, sort of worked in banks, now HSBC, Macquarie, MetLife, did many different things. So I've had some fun, different sectors and different industries, and sort of done sort of more than 20 years as a CIO and CISO on the way, and then sort of pivoted into different areas, and more recently I've gone into risk management. Sort of personal transformation has been sort of the goal, I think, for me to change and grow. And then so that means I needed to do things that are different to me, myself, all the time.
Yeah. So would you like to highlight some key lessons that you have learned, all across your journey?
Thank you. I think I would offer five sort of learnings I've had along the way. Look, transformation of myself, being comfortable, being uncomfortable is something that I've embraced. And that means, going to different companies, different sectors, different countries where I don't speak the language, and trying to learn that and figure out how to fit in. And number two, I think, trying to always figure out what really matters. And I practice yoga every day. So trying to find, the drishti, and then, which is what to focus on today, and get that done today is really, really important. I think thirdly is I'm kind of driven to keep learning. So having that learning agility and learning mindset to never be satisfied that you know enough. Nearly paranoid about that is important to me. I'd like to get stuff done. So to me, working across silos and not being stuck in a silo is actually the best thing. The best thing is to in my view, have a job with a blank job description. Someone gives me a job description and says, stay here. I hate that, because I want to be able to go anywhere. And finally, I think, seek challenge, have fun. That if you don't like it, don't enjoy it, don't do it. Move on to something else.
Wow, that's fantastic. So looking at opportunities through the walls is something great. Yeah. So, you talked about working in so many good organizations, and then, you have been dealing with different people with different cultures and backgrounds. So, what are the key traits or principles that guide your leadership approach in technology and cyber and data risk management, particularly in fostering a risk-aware culture?
That's a really good question. I think it's just start at the top, right? The top has to role model the right behaviors. So many organizations I've worked in, people will say there are exceptions for board members. Board members don't need to have MFA. Board members don't need to apply the policies. And I said, no, absolutely not. We need to make sure that the role modeling starts at the very top and everybody behaves the right way. And so the risk culture starts at the top. So, maybe buying is not the right word. People have to lean in and actually, take part of the responsibility on your shoulders. So if you're a CISO, and I was a CISO at HSBC, it's a tough job. So, I'm okay to have that on my shoulders, but actually it's better if others help me and we all lean in and try to make the organization a safe organization. So So to me, how do you have the right balance between carrots and sticks? And so it's not all about incentive, but also, sometimes you get to say you must do this. I'm sorry, there's no choice here. The only question is around when you do it, not if you do it.
Okay. So, as you have a bigger experience when it comes to the financial institutions, then we can see that financial institutions often grapple with balancing innovation and risk management. So, how do you ensure that security measures don't stifle progress while protecting critical assets?
It's a really tough one. Financial institutions are on the forefront of innovation, trying new things. That's like the latest example, right? Everybody wants to do AI. So I chaired a panel last week in Singapore. Sorry, panels, a whole day of conferences. Actually, the conference was on, financial crime, cybersecurity, operational risk, payments, data, and everybody turned to AI. Okay? And so it's quite interesting because obviously you want to say we want to use this technology to enhance the organization productivity, for sure. No question about that. We have to do this in the right way. We have to do this in a way which is actually, responsible, and we use it in a way that's not going to hurt ethically the organization by using it inappropriately. And that's hard to actually sometimes do that because people are wanting to go fast. And so you need to find ways to say, actually, if you're doing A, B, and C, just go fast because there's no risk of data being lost or sensitive information being leaked by accident. However, if you're doing C, where there's really sensitive information and it's top secret, then be careful. Go the right fashion and do it in a mindful fashion where we've got to get proper approvals, and that's part of the way to do it, rather than saying it's okay. So I think that's us trying to build the trust, and so customer experience is important for financial institutions, and trust is important as well. So how do you not lose to trust by taking shortcuts?
Yeah, but like cybersecurity and data risk have become board level concerns. So, how can CISOs and technology leaders effectively communicate these risks and their implications to the board?
So I'm sort of answering this in two ways. One is the former CIO and CISO, and secondly as now a board member. So board members get a very small slice of time to ask questions of their C-suite and go to management and say, well, why is this okay? Why should we come to this? But they think about this. They get, 2 or 3 questions once a quarter to ask. And they have their own responsibilities that they're being held accountable by the regulators now to say, you must make sure this is all good. So it's an interesting problem because you got to understand that the CEO and CISO are under pressure to do things, to not overspend investment wise, but then at the same time being asked, why is this okay? Why is my cybersecurity situation, a risk appetite out of tolerance, out of appetite? Why is that okay? And so it's a tricky one because I think at the end of the day, what I have to do is tell the boards that we are where we are from a cyber standpoint. This risk is not going to go away tomorrow. It's going to perpetuate. It morphs every day. It requires ongoing investment. We just need to be mindful about how do we break it down into what are the top 3 risks in the organization today, and how do we address that versus trying to boil the ocean. You can't boil the ocean, right? And say it's going to be solved. However, I'm addressing the top 3 risks right now, and I'm looking at those 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 is sort of my next level, and I'm working on that. But actually, my focus is on those first 3. And if I reduce that risk, then actually I'm actually helping the organization to manage in a mindful fashion that can keep the business going. And so I think that's a sort of a measured way of, I guess, of answering the question.
Yeah. So it's more like what I have understood is that you have to talk to them in the business language itself to make them understand, translating it into, okay, the numbers or figures that what would be probably the implications in answer to why why we should do this. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So, talking about the best practices, like we know that cyber attacks become more sophisticated day by day. And so what strategies would you suggest, can businesses implement to build a resilience and mitigate risk effectively?
Well, I think one of the first bit of advice to me is around being very data-driven, fact-driven. Okay, so if you're able to use cyber risk quantification to quantify your actual risk, and therefore, as you're spending money, your improvement programs are actually therefore reducing this risk. So I'm spending $5 million to reduce what's the $20 million risk factor to the organization. So if you can quantify it that way, then everybody understands that. So you don't need to understand, threat actor APT 441. That doesn't matter. Okay, but what they understand is that actually there's a risk into the business, and I'm reducing that risk by taking these actions. I think also if we can, don't be complacent. We can think about, this sort of, I've been breached. How do I detect that? A lot of organizations spend a lot of money on preventative controls and sometimes less on detective controls or even responding. So how do you get the right balance, to make sure that you can detect once you've been breached and then recover and respond the business back to where it was before afterwards in a sort of graceful fashion. So if you've got, I've seen organizations where people have got way too much investment into preventative controls and very few in the detective and respond. So we just need to get the right balance. And I think 60, 30, 10 is about right, best practice. So how do you get that sort of balance? So you can move towards being able to, respond to different scenarios.
Yeah. So would you like to talk about? Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No. I think it's two more things. I'd say that cyber teams are under increased massive pressure, and so the cyber teams, the teams that work in networking, that have to respond and patch things, they're under pressure to perform, every weekend, patch things every weekend. It's kind of an endless treadmill. No one ever thanks them for their service. No one ever thanks them for what they do. And, you can actually, have a 0-day event and then you come out of it unscathed after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of emergency work, right? But no one says, you're a rock star. This is amazing. Thank you so much. You've just saved the organization. We don't see them as superheroes. We see them as being people that are just doing the job and don't really appreciate what they do. So I think that's something that in management and boards, we should start to give them more recognition to the amazing stuff they do.
Yeah, so that's kind of a motivation which definitely helps the CISOs. And would you like to talk about any of the latest implementations, the projects that been executed, and how was the experience? What kind of ROI, we have achieved? Though it's difficult when it comes to security, cyber security, until unless what kind of ROI we can measure, until unless there is some incidents around it.
That's an interesting one. I mean, Macquarie, where I worked previously, is very different to HSBC, where previously, et cetera, et cetera. And every organization has different measures around measurement. And HSBC spent $1 billion in 4 years on cyber transformation. Okay, so a few organizations that would have done that sort of level of investment to uplift, and then looking for return on investment, you're looking for your risk appetite to be reduced from where you are out of appetite. So it's a really interesting one, because I think if you've got a really focused program of work to address your most important key risks, then that's a great outcome. And then congratulations, you can do it again tomorrow and start again tomorrow. So it is a tricky one, because the work always feels like it never ends, and that the attack vector is always changing, right? So it's a tricky one for management to understand and grasp.
Yeah, absolutely. So given the growing reliance on data for decision making, what trends do you see in the data governance and data privacy, particularly in highly regulated industries?
It's really tricky. It's a tricky one to answer too, because if you went and did a poll, and you took, there are 5 chief data officers here and 5 CISOs here, okay? And you asked them, where does data security fit in your top 5 priorities? Okay, for both of those 2 characters, you'd probably find that both of them would say it's number 6. Okay, not number 5, not number 1, not number 4. None of these guys or girls would have their top 5 normally. Okay, so which is interesting. Now, someone will say, "No, David, you're lying. This is not the case." But the fact is, most organizations we work in don't have it as a top 5 priority. It's important, yes. Is it number one? No, it's not number one. There's always something more important than data security. And so, yeah, it's interesting because that's data um, has been around for a long time. Data itself, because we're now trying to jump into AI models and do things with AI, but the fundamentals in data aren't always necessarily working properly. So the quality's not there. People aren't getting good reports, and we can't make good decisions based upon that foundation. So I think it's interesting. So data security is unfortunately a poor cousin to that. And so the chief data officer cares about data quality and reporting and analytics and all that sexy fun stuff, right? Data security is way, way down the list. And similarly for a CISO, they care about this, but it's not their number one ever. They've got other things that are pressing that are, asking to patch things now from a vol management standpoint, or a DDoS attack or a ransomware attack that's taking all their attention and time. And data security is definitely getting the attention, but not anywhere in that top 5.
Okay. So you think till date, though we have been talking about data being in oil for, I think, more than a decade now, still when it comes to the adoption level, it's still the similar kind of a scenario that it's all scattered. They are in silos. Data governance is still a big issue.
Correct. Yes. So people have now got different solutions, data mesh solutions to find information wherever it is. You don't need to classify it, okay? Because the data classification and inventory of data hasn't been done well. So we therefore try to have tools that allow you to keep it where it is and work in a federated fashion. Yeah. And that's because of the state we're in. And it's tough because the data itself, whether it's structured or unstructured data, is just extrapolating. It's just out of control, so to speak. We're capturing more and more information in all kinds of formats, and then we're retaining it way too long as well. And so it's a tricky one for the CIO and the C-suite around that person to actually tackle.
So it's more like to start from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never really been. It's very hard to point to an organization that was amazing in this space and done it all well. There's probably one or two organizations you can say, wow, they've really quite advanced, but most organizations struggle with this and have struggled with this.
Yeah. So with the rise of AI and big data, what are the main challenges companies face when it comes to managing data risk and how they can overcome those challenges?
There's a few different things to talk about here. I said this on the stage last week in Singapore in a conference, and I said we all keep talking about this copilot. It makes us feel comfortable about things, but actually the bots are actually running the world. Okay, so it's very hard for us to honestly say that David or Kalpana here can actually validate what the robot did. Okay, because you have a holiday, you sleep at night time, right? I sleep at night time, not 19 hours, but I sleep. And the robots don't sleep. The AI bots don't sleep. So they keep churning out more and more analysis that we've got to go and say, hey, as a co-pilot, are you okay with this? Right? And yeah, I'm okay. But how on earth do you do that? Now, talking to a very clever guy last week who was from Nomura on the panel, and he talked about, I think he called the word adjacency, which means you have one bot checking the other bot. Right. And so the one bot's doing analysis, the other bot's checking that it's right. So I said, oh, hang on a minute, let me understand this. So this is an interesting concept. So who's the master? Oh, no, they're both equal, both masters. They teach each other and checking each other. Okay. So this whole concept of co-pilot has gone away already, right? We put it in place to make us feel better about it, but actually the bots are actually really controlling each other. And so what we can control is actually what we teach them to a point, right? Then they start learning themselves.
Yeah. So what emerging trends or technologies do you see shaping the future of technology, cyber and data risk management in the financial service industry?
If I step back from it all, right, we're on an interesting journey because all generative AI consumes much more power. So on the one hand, yes, you're getting amazing abilities to create new reports that have got new insights. I do worry about the climate change and energy, green energy, because I think, the more processing power creates more heat, more data centers, that need to be in special locations. So that from a trend standpoint, I think that's going to start to become an issue. People will start saying, actually, this is really good. However, I'm concerned about that. I did mention the sort of bots versus bots,
Yeah.
and that whole area is an area where I think the ethics around how we control, how we control, use that word used loosely, how do we actually can try to remain in control is tricky. But definitely I can see the rate of change tended to accelerate. And so I was on a Cloud Services Alliance working group that I joined very occasionally because it was 1 a.m. in the morning in Australia. And there were some very smart people there that analyzed the number of attack vectors against models, AI models. If I try to remember the exact numbers, it was 356 or 50, something like 350 different attack vectors against AI models. And in intricate detail, in detail, how you can attack these models. And I was reading this, like, oh my God, goodness me, all the bad people can read this as well, right? The black hat people can read this and actually use that. But what was more scary was the fact that, I was reading it for the first time. I was kept thinking to myself, who else hasn't read this paper? It doesn't understand this. And I wrote an article for CXOTV magazine about continuous red teaming of AI models. And I said, that's the only answer you have, because there's no point having a review of the model last week, last year, last month, because it's redundant, it's changed. So you need to be continually monitoring, checking, and seeing, are there new vulnerabilities in that model that weren't there yesterday or last hour. So that'll be a trend, I think, in the organizations, that we start to embrace the real-time threats in that regard.
Yeah. So last but not the least, what are your tech and business priorities over the next 2 years?
Well, I think it's an interesting one for me, because I just retired from Macquarie in July of this year. So I'd planned my exit for 15 months to go off to launch my book, which is behind you, and to write 2 books and do consulting and get on the boards. And so it's been a fun journey for me. I think I sort of, if I can for a moment, just say that the book's been on sale for 90 days, and I've already reached #1 in 4 countries, which is sort of Australia, Japan, Singapore, and in Dubai and UAE, and I got to #2 in India a week or so ago. So I don't understand some of the stuff, because I've not done much promotion except to LinkedIn, and I've not visited India for this promotion, but it's been sort of fun to write the book. But also, I think to me the passion part of this, Kalpana, is that I'm trying to give people advice around how to grow your career. You may not want to be a CIO or a CISO, but actually the fun part to me is not the $5 away from the book. Actually, it's the fun part about people who've read the book and they go, oh, I followed your advice, I got a new job. Or I'm actually stuck in my career, I'm not really sure what I should do, and I've on chapter 3, and it's helped me think through how to reset my career goals. And so these are people I don't know, from Brazil and from London and India and different locations. So it's really cool. I kind of feel like I'm making a difference to people's lives, which is more fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm sure our audience would be more than happy knowing about your book.
Thank you.
So where exactly we can find your book? Is it available?
Oh, it's on sale in about 75 online stores, all the Amazons and Barnes and Nobles and the like. But I think also the author have got it on special right now, so you can buy it on special. I think 40-50% off on special, because when they all news to make up on it, but as an author, they promote, if you're successful, they promote it and sell it to get volume. So no, it's unavailable on Amazon and Parrot. So please have a read, but also link in with me and let me know what you think.
Yeah, sure. All right. So thank you so much for sharing your insights today, your expertise in navigating complex landscape of cybersecurity in financial services in invaluable.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you to our audience for joining us on this episode of Talks with Kalpana. Stay tuned for more enlightening conversations with leaders in the industry. Until next time, stay safe and informed.
For more updates from CXOTV, please like and subscribe to our channel.